It's finally here, Ben Goessling. It's Monday. We are talking Vikings. Different kind of Monday. Usually it's Royce, but he's off this week. It's like some sort of Northwoods vacation. I'm sure he's
Yeah.
loving that. I'm sure he's loving that. But the complaints per minute ratio on Royce in the Northwoods has to be high.
Mr. I don't know why anybody has a cabin. It's
Yeah,
going up on
yes,
the first full weekend of September.
yes. Good for him, though. Good for him. He deserves the time off. He should
Yep.
take time off when he can. And it time wise, it actually makes some sense to do a different Monday show because obviously with the Monday night game, gives us a chance to preview Vikings Bears on Monday Night Football. No shortage of storylines. My goodness, I mean it's JJ McCarthy's debut, Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, new head coach of the Bears, all the different Viking storylines, and of course Monday Night Football, last game of the weekend. Yeah, you more than anybody else have to probably be appreciating the fact that this is finally here.
I am glad it's finally here. Yes, the preseason ends up. It's been fine. It's been interesting enough with a new quarterback, new defense. There's been a lot of things to talk about, but how any of this sets up in relation to the rest of the NFL is not something we've had a good answer to until this point. So I think we will get some of that Monday night, and it's a big game. I mean, it's the storyline is certainly JJ McCarthy versus Caleb Williams, but this is a division game against a team that has a new head coach whose scheme the Vikings have not solved at all, really, in his time in their twice a year schedule. Ben Johnson, of course, former Lions offensive coordinator. The Vikings are, I believe, 1-5 against the Lions since Ben Johnson came in, and they've had a lot of trouble with his offenses. So what that will look like with Caleb Williams, not Jared Goff, I mean, that takes a while to build that kind of chemistry. So It's not a bad time to catch Caleb Williams, but lots of intrigue about that. And certainly JJ McCarthy's first start in his hometown is not a bad storyline either. Lots in this one that should be a pretty exciting debut to the 2025 season.
Agreed. I want to get to McCarthy more in a minute because I think we'll probably stay with McCarthy for a while.
Yeah.
But news-wise, right before we started recording, we recorded Sunday before you're going to leave.
Right.
We learn Harrison Smith out, which he was doubtful before with his undisclosed illness. So that's not a surprise. But now we have clarity on him. Darisaw is questionable. That feels like it's leaning more towards him playing, if I'm guessing, but I don't know exactly where that stands.
Yeah, I would say that read is right. Darisaw, I think they'll take it to game time. They can probably use a little bit of gamesmanship there. I don't think they mind, but my sense would be that he'll play. I mean, I think unless he goes into tomorrow feeling like this isn't a good idea, or the medical staff is concerned with putting him out there week one, or concerned about the resodded turf at Soldier Field, if that's a concern for anyone. Maybe that is something that leads them to not do it. But I think if he feels good and wants to go, I mean, Kevin O'Connell saying he's earned the right to have the conversation about whether to play this week, I think is reflective of the work he has done to get himself to this point. So I think if he feels good and he's like, yeah, I want to do it, I would expect that he is out there. And I think that's a big deal with a Bears front that has been better in the last couple of years, and I think will continue to be a little more formidable with Grady Jarrett as part of it this year as well. So if they have him, it certainly makes it a lot easier for J.J. McCarthy in that first game. As far as Harrison Smith, yeah, we didn't expect him to play. They listed him as doubtful. Lots of reaction on social media immediately after this hits, people asking, hey, this has got to be something serious, right? It is not something serious. He just hasn't practiced since August 11th. That was the first time he had done substantive work in practice since then, really on Saturday before the game. So I think they want a little more time to ramp him up and get him back to feeling comfortable in football shape and just get more than a Saturday practice under his belt, because Saturday practices in the NFL or Friday practices, effectively is what this was, are not the most strenuous of the week. The most strenuous practice the Vikings had was Wednesday, and actually was quite a crisp session from what Kevin O'Connell in company felt about it. So when he doesn't get that kind of work before week one, I think they're probably going to say, you know what, let's just give this a little more time. but it's not something that's serious. I think he'll have a good chance to go against the Falcons.
Okay.
It's not something that him being downgraded to out is reflective of any type of further concern.
Okay.
I don't think that's what's going on. It's significant that they won't have him because I
Yeah.
think they are better with him. But, in terms of this being a sign of something more serious or a sign of, hey, this is even more concerning, I wouldn't read it that way.
What does the safety rotation look like now then with him out? He's been,
Yeah.
this is what, 14th year for him,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. Like,
It is.
so you get so used to him being there. What does it look like with him out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the role, Brian Flores talked about this a little bit this week. I don't think the role will be something they try to just replace because a
Yeah.
lot of what he does is built off of his know-how, his intuitiveness, his years of experience that nobody else can really match. So they're not going to give somebody the same type of latitude or the same type of diverse, eclectic role that he has in this defense. I think you probably see more of Jay Ward. Theo Jackson certainly will play quite a bit. And then Josh Metellus, the question will be how much do they move him around and kind of play him in that rover quasi linebacker type role they've had him play in the last couple of years. Do they change that out a little bit, or do they continue to have him do what he does? Because I don't think as a deep safety, he is, you don't just go and put him there and say, okay, this is a 1-for-1 swap. I don't think that's Metellus' strongest part of his games. It will be, I think Jay Ward will be the next guy up in a lot of ways. And you probably have to mix and match a little bit in terms of how you're going to play your safeties with Harrison Smith not being there. But I don't think they will try to have anybody do exactly what Harrison Smith does because you just don't find people that do it exactly the way that he's done it for a long time in this defense.
I'm kind of expecting this to be somewhat of a low scoring game. I don't know. I mean, I like the offense overall, but week one is weird. Like you just don't know.
Yeah.
You've got no film on what anybody's going to do. You figured the Vikings might try to run the ball a little bit more this year based on the revamped offensive line, the kind of commitment to the run game. You don't want to overburden McCarthy, so it could be a game with another fewer possession or two and just moving clock. And I think they'll have a pretty good chance of stopping the Bears on offense. Just whatever Caleb Williams does, I feel like Vikings have a top 5 defense. I feel that good about their front seven and everything else. So like that said, like how do you feel like from a game plan standpoint or a game flow standpoint? What are you looking for in week one?
Well, I mean, offensively, a lot of it is going to be two things. How do they support McCarthy in his first start? How much did they put on his plate? I do think they want to run the ball. I do think they want to make this as user-friendly, as it were, for J.J. McCarthy in his first start as they possibly can. That means running the ball. I think you'll see quite a bit of bootleg play action stuff that makes it a half-field read. I think you'll see concepts that give him shallow crossing routes, easy throws to make if he is not able to find anything open further downfield. I think Aaron Jones could be involved as a receiver. I would not be surprised if Aaron Jones has a fairly active night in that facet of the game, but I do think they want to line up and pound it. I think you'll see both those running backs. I think Jordan Mason plays quite a bit. I would not be surprised if we see a lot of Josh Oliver too, because I think a lot of this stuff they have said about play style, which is Kevin O'Connell shorthand for we want to punch people in the mouth.
Yeah.
I think they mean it. And I don't think they have had the personnel to back that up such that they do this year. I think
That's
the
fair.
changes on the offensive line, bringing Josh Oliver back on a new deal, Jordan Mason being here, there is more of a physical kind of stout presence on this offense than there's been. I think they will try to use that tomorrow. I am also curious how the Bears try to cover Justin Jefferson, because Dennis Allen has been a man-heavy team or a man-heavy scheme, a man-heavy defensive coordinator in his time doing that. And I think he wants to do quite a bit of that. But Jalen Johnson is dealing with, I believe, groin and quad injuries.
Yeah, something to the legs, groin, hamstring, something like that. I remember what it was, but yeah.
Two things, but he's questionable for the game. And if they want to play man coverage and it's him following Justin Jefferson all across the field, that is a tall order. I think they'll probably see quite a bit of, shell coverage, probably a lot of too deep stuff on third downs, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So how they do that, I'm very curious to see. I mean, people don't play man against Justin Jefferson very often, and he would welcome as much man coverage as he could get. Just people don't do it because they know what he does to man coverage. So I don't know that the Bears will go quite that way, even if they become more of a man-heavy team. I'm curious about that. I'm curious about what the Vikings do to support McCarthy. I think it's going to be kind of one of those games where they try to pound it, and then on the other side of the ball, I think they're licking their chops. I mean, I think they feel like there are matchups that they can win against the offensive line, even though it's been revamped, even though the Bears, I think, have a better group.
Mm-hmm.
I think the front seven with Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, and then all of the different pieces that you can put in there, which Dallas Turner, I think, is going to be a bigger part of.
Yeah.
I think they are excited about the chance to get after Caleb Williams, excited about the chance to finish some of those plays they did not finish last year at Soldier Field, when Caleb Williams had a couple times where he got away when they had him dead to rights. So if they can finish those and if they can hit him, I think it changes the game quite a bit. I picked the Vikings to win this one. Kind of ugly. I think I picked 17-13. Kind of low scoring, kind of ugly. But I think their defense will make the difference, and I think they'll do enough to make it workable for McCarthy in the first start. So, yeah, it's probably kind of ugly, but that's where I went with it. And I think their defense could be in for a very interesting night against Caleb Williams.
And that seems smart. Now, obviously, big picture, they have huge hopes for McCarthy. They took him 10th overall. They've never drafted a quarterback higher. If this franchise is going to ever win a Super Bowl, it's not like it's all on JJ McCarthy, but this phase of the Vikings evolution, like, is very much dependent on how good he eventually gets. You wrote a really good story. Enjoyed it this weekend. Kind of about kind of all the kind of the steps that lead to this moment, but also just kind of like the nature of becoming this kind of quarterback in this day and age, where he's 22 years old. He's gone through the IMG Academy. He's gone through all these like passing coaches. Like, this is what it takes now to a large degree to be in this position. It's it's not the kid in the backyard of the barn throwing the ball through the tire anymore. There's a lot of hands and bits of advice that get in there. How did you decide to write about this? What did you learn along the way? And how is, kind of as you wrote, how is he both a product of this and almost kind of uniquely seeming like he was made for this along the way?
Yeah, it was an interesting thing to look into. I had this idea probably a year ago. We talked about kind of doing some quarterback projects and I think you were part of that meeting at the Strip. And I first broached this idea back then because I just heard so much of this, where you have people hiring private coaches as young as elementary school. And I was like, wait, hang on. So I just wanted to learn as much as I could about this, because we see this in every sport, whether it's basketball, hockey certainly does this. Volleyball has gotten pretty big into the private scene, the club scene. Soccer has done this for a long time. And you can go down the list. And tennis, any of the Olympic kind of individual sports, the country club sports have been doing this forever. I mean, Tiger Woods would say, hello, this is not new to have somebody at a very young age getting private coaching. But football has seemed a little bit different here. It was interesting to talk to Kevin O'Connell about this, because he grew up doing a lot of these things. He's helped work with quarterbacks as a private instructor, getting them ready for the combine. He's coached. He has a kid that is 10 years old that is starting to play quarterback a little bit, and may end up being a baseball player, but he has kind of lived every facet of this. So it was really interesting to talk to him. His point was, this has been going on for a long time. He talked about driving up to LA, or just north of San Diego, probably not quite to LA, to Mission Viejo, to work with, I think it was Mark Sanchez and Jordan Palmer, when he was coming through high school. I think that's probably where he got to know Aaron Rodgers, is just kind of that quarterback circuit, as they were kind of the same age. But he said, Peyton Manning was doing this too. It just wasn't talked about as much because social media wasn't as big of a thing. But the thing he said is, this world has gotten flooded with coaches. And that really was the interesting thing to me as you go through this, is how do you as a family navigate how you find the right coach, because you can work with these people, 2-3 times a week. You can spend hundreds of dollars a month, if not more than that. The camps, the travel, all of this kind of stuff. It was really interesting to talk to JJ, his family, his private coach, Greg Holcomb, about what all of this looks like. And the story begins with his dad basically saying, we didn't upgrade the house. We didn't save tons of money for everybody to go to college because we wanted to give our kids chances to chase their passions. And that meant private dance, that meant private cheerleading. I think all of these kinds of things for JJ's sisters. And then for JJ, it was, but first it was hockey, and he was playing hockey at a pretty high level. And they said, well, we can't do both of these things, because anybody that is listening to this that has a kid playing hockey, they know what that entails, especially in Minnesota. Obviously, it was Illinois for him, but going through all of this and deciding, who do I work with? How much time do I spend? It is a massive commitment. And it seems like a lot of kids now, and some of the kids I talked to for the story were like, I think it was Reed Creighton down at Belle Plaine. He said, I started going to a coach in 8th grade because I could see I was going to have a quarterback battle in high school, and I needed to get ahead of these 2 other quarterbacks. It's like, man, you're sitting there thinking about depth chart stuff.
I know, in 8th
for
grade.
High school when you're in middle school. Everything gets sped up. JJ McCarthy had scholarship offers at the end of 8th grade to Iowa State, Indiana. Greg Holcomb told me his son Sam, who is class of 2030, my daughter graduates from high school, already has offers to Michigan and Purdue. So all of this stuff is just moving faster and faster and faster. And it does become a little bit of, if you don't do it, or if you don't find a way to get extra help, extra instruction, you're getting left behind. I mean, JJ said a lot of the key to this was his dad, because his dad played a little bit of football back at the D3 level. And he basically said, I have taught you everything I can teach you. If you want to take this further, we need to find other people that are going to help you. And that was like 5th grade where they start doing some of those things, and they find Greg Holcomb in middle school. But JJ said, I've seen so many, he called it quarterback dads, that take over and get their claws in. And he said a lot of this was my dad having the humility and the perspective to say, we need to get somebody else in the process that can take you where you want to go. But a lot of that was a conversation they had with him when he was in 5th grade, saying, what do you want to do? He says, I want to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And they say, well, do you know what that's going to take in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of commitment? He said, yeah, I do. Let's go. And that level of dedication to it, I think, is what makes him unique, because you have a lot of kids doing this, a lot of families spending a lot of money, but if you don't have somebody that will take it as far as you can go, then it becomes difficult. I mean, that's basically what Kevin O'Connell is saying to his own son, is you have to love this to the point where chasing the tiny 1% improvement, chasing mastery of it, is something that gets you excited enough to get up every day. If it becomes an obligation, it's just not worth the time. So this whole world was very fascinating to me, and it was a lot of fun to talk to a lot of people from a different perspective, both to discuss the industry and then just how it helped JJ McCarthy, or how JJ McCarthy used it to help himself get to where he is now.
There's a financial component to it, kind of a double edge at this point, because it takes a lot of money to do this. So you have to either be from a family of at least relative means, or a family willing to invest what they do have into this. So, Max Brosmer did talk in your story about, he had a coach that is willing to kind of like work with athletes maybe can't pay, or kind of like there is a way, but there is kind of a self-limiting nature to this, where affluence comes into play in terms of the limiting nature of who can make it. And B, though, there's money to be made now, if not in high school, certainly college. Like, the best college quarterbacks are making $1 million or more now. Like, you don't have to be in the NFL to get the payday now. So there's the incentive is raised now too.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that was a lot of the story, and a lot of what led me to this, as well as how much does this become pay to play? I remember back when I was at ESPN, we did a quarterback survey of like every starting quarterback in the NFL. I think a lot of it was anonymous, so we got a lot of details about where everybody came from. But I think what we found was like 90% of NFL quarterbacks came from relatively affluent. I can't remember exactly what the gradations we used were, but certainly it is a position that skews towards people of means and people that can go to the best coaches, go to the best high schools, go to all these camps. And the interesting thing about JJ was that his family, kind of wasn't that. I mean, they were probably middle class, but
Yeah.
they also said, we are willing to invest in this and defer some of the other things that we might do otherwise to help you guys chase what you want to do. But yeah, the amount of, even that takes probably parents that will spend the time, parents that will, pay for travel, pay for
Yeah.
the coaching, do all the driving. I mean, you and I are both in that world as parents now,
Yes.
where we're shuttling our kids around everywhere. That gets to be
Yes.
a part-time job too. So yeah, it is really interesting to see where all this goes. And Quinn Frizel from 612 Quarterbacks, and I talked about this a little bit too, just that you have to understand in some cases, especially where he's at, where you get enough clients, that if there's somebody that, hey, money's an issue, he said it is important to be able to say, you know what, we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. And
Right.
Quincy Avery, who coached Max Brosmer, has been willing to do some of those things. Yeah, as Brosmer said, I think about this a lot. I don't know how families pull it off because it is such an investment. So, but like you say, if you're going to take this thing anywhere, and there's a payoff if you're good enough, and that's going to be a very small percentage of people who are, and that's where the rub comes with this. But if you have kids getting scholarship offers that early, Greg Holcomb said people have approached him about NIL stuff for his son in 8th grade, and he's like, I want him to be a middle schooler and ride his bike. But
Right.
there are those things out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you start to look at it from a financial perspective, there is incentive to say, let's go do this. The thing is, how many people are actually going to make this a net positive financially? That's still going to be a pretty small number, but a number of the parents I talked to as well, including, a couple of the coaches up in Annandale whose kids were doing this, they said, we've enjoyed the time. We enjoy the car rides just to have time with our kids. And Jim McCarthy said, yeah, there's nothing I wouldn't do to get that time in the car with my son back when we're driving to and from these camps. So for some families, I think it's been, hey, this is something they're passionate about. If they want to work at it and make the best of it, let's do it. This is, part of raising kids. And there's benefit beyond the financial to that too.
The intangibles, maybe let's kind of wrap up here. The intangibles for JJ McCarthy don't seem to be in question at this point. 22 years old, mature beyond his years, very more mature than a lot of mid-career quarterbacks, maybe more mature than me. I don't know. He's got a very good head on his shoulders. He's obviously got the talent. We'll see where it takes him, but the scrutiny is going to be unbelievable, because even Sunday, I find myself watching the slate of games going, hey, Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns. Steelers beat the Jets, came back to beat the Jets 34-32. Hey, Daniel Jones, really good debut for the Colts. He had 200 plus yards. He ran for a couple scores. They rout the Dolphins. They look like a different team. Like the guys that were in the orbit of, hey, they could be here this year. And now it's, Carson Wentz is the very clearly defined backup. JJ McCarthy's the guy. Like they could have gone a lot of different directions. I don't think that's going to be a storyline forever, but it was a week 1 storyline. I got my eye on it. So there's scrutiny that's going to be undeniable this year, just for the nature of the position, the fact they went 14-3 last year. Like the expectations are not diminished this year.
No, they're not. And yes, on Sunday, the JJ McCarthy opportunity cost, as it were, looked pretty high. I mean, the guys that they said, no, we're good, or we're only going to go so far in making an offer to you, looked awfully good. But I think the way the Vikings are thinking about this is probably worth keeping in mind. They are not going to freak out if tomorrow night, or tonight, as people listen to this, they're not going to freak out if JJ McCarthy doesn't look completely polished. I actually think if JJ McCarthy comes out and is on fire and it looks like, hey, we've got our guy, everybody, pave the road to San Francisco, Santa Clara, I guess it is, for the Super Bowl, and, keep Hennepin Avenue open for the parade. I think they're a little more interested in tamping that down than if it goes the other way. But a lot of their approach to this is going to be to try to stay right here, where you just don't react too much to either side of it, because they are in this for the long haul with him. I mean, everybody knows, and I've had this conversation with enough people in this building, there is a perspective of, hey, 14 wins last year, 13 wins the first year. That's great. It's nice to do that, but everybody understands that legacies will be written and livelihoods will be decided on what happens at the quarterback position. Have you found the answer, as I put it in my story? Really, the answer to Fran Tarkenton. I mean, they want a quarterback who has that type of staying power and that type of impact on this franchise, with apologies to Dante Culpepper or
people who have
Kramer or Kirk
Cousins, who have held it for a while, but
nobody's done it on the level that Fran Tarkenton has, and
obviously
that's 50 years ago. So if you don't hit that, then there's going to be questions asked about, well, should you get another chance at it? So this is the thing on which Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell's reputations are staked. I think they understand that, and I think the view is very much the long term with JJ McCarthy. The tricky part, like you allude to, though, is this is a 14-win team that added a lot of veterans and thinks it can win right now. It's just the way they win right now may look different than it does when JJ McCarthy is in year 4 or 5.
Yeah, that makes sense. And did Daniel Jones get revitalized from his half year here? Did Aaron Rodgers get revitalized merely by talking to KOC this offseason? I want to know.
I mean, yeah, it's the way that we used to talk about Sean McVay with coaches. Like, you shared an elevator ride with Sean McVay, you're hired. I mean, yeah, if you had a phone call with Kevin O'Connell, we will sign you as our quarterback. I mean, it could be a wonderful trade surplus for the Vikings as they go forward. It's like this quarterback has been blessed by the quarterback whisperer, been blessed by the Dalai Lama. Shout out Carl Spackler.
Yeah.
If you could trade those guys out of here and say, hey, he's worked with Kevin O'Connell, he could come in and be effective for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be they've gotten a couple of comp picks out of it already, but you can turn Max Brosmer into a 1 or 2 or something like that.
All right, slow down.
That would be the ideal scenario.
That's the ideal. I know.
All I'm saying. I don't know that we're going there, but that is, if all of this is as effective as it looked on Sunday, the big if, that would be the pie in the sky scenario for them.
Well, I can't wait. Neither can you. Monday night against the Bears. It's not the end all be all of the season, but it feels like an important game. It's a division game. It's the first one of the season. Like, you win it, you've got a division road win in the bank. You lose it, it's not like you're specifically chasing it all year, but it kind of puts you in a little bit of a more tenuous. It's only 17 games long. Like, you lose your first one, it feels different, I think.
Yeah, it does. And I think the fact that the entire NFC North played division games this week it changes things, because you have a lot of new pieces in all 4 of these markets, whether it's new coordinators in Detroit, Micah Parsons in Green Bay, Ben Johnson in Chicago, JJ McCarthy in Minnesota. You have a lot of people who are trying to figure a lot of things out, but there are stakes that are, probably 1.25, so to speak. On a normal opener, because it's all division games. So I do think this has a little bit of a different tenor than you might have from a typical week 1 game.
We'll have all the coverage after the game, all the coverage all the time. Ben Goessling, appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mike.